Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Monday, January 27th, 2025, and today we're celebrating our 75th episode. And as such, we're just going to have a normal show, but we're going to talk about the challenge of making friends as adults and what farming has to do with that. We'll look for some new insight on slugs, and this weekend I talked to inspectors about dropping our certification and market farmers about dropping our farmers market. So let's do it. All right, I had an awesome time this weekend at the Oak Conference. This event is always just a joy for me. I've known some of the growers that come to that event for like 15 years, and it's like a family reunion every time. Actually, although my wife's family is robust and great and has reunions and occasional get-togethers, my family is really small. And so we never had a family reunion as far as I can remember. So I guess this event isn't just like my family reunion. It pretty much is my family reunion every year. So we get to see a lot of people we love and a lot of people we wish we could see more. These growers have been in our lives for, in many cases, over a decade, growing food, having kids, going through the many ups and downs of farm life that we have and are. We connect with this particular group on a very deep and immediate level, and it's a true joy to see them. Then it's really sad when we all have to truck back to our respective farms spread throughout the state, except ours, which is only like 15 minutes from the venue. But I mean, you get the idea. There's a joy amongst this group and many successful businesses, but there's also like loneliness and sadness and fear and all sorts of stuff. The types of things that friends help you through, especially those who, like so many of us, really understand those feelings as farmers who have also and do also go through them ourselves. And it sucks that we only do that once per year because that's what farming often allows, or at least the way that we went about farming. It's not news that it's harder to make friends as adults, genuine friends, like schedules are brutally difficult to align. It's awkward to just ask people to hang out, all the things. But with farming comes this shared experience with a lot of other growers that connects you in a way that is often swift and lasting. Not with every farmer, to be sure, but we found a good crew of them who we really connect with in ways that we admittedly sometimes struggle to connect with other adults. All that to say, as we were leaving the conference the first night, I was thinking about what we could have done differently early on to ensure that we actually got to see and hang out with these folks more, because there is not a ton that can change now. We all have our farms far away from one another. Some of us will see some of the group more and others will see less. We can have some potlucks and they will be glorious, but they will still, to some extent, underserve the need to see each other, to help each other, catch up on hugs, all the things. So what's the lesson, right? What would I tell someone who is just getting into farming that I've learned about this particular aspect of the business? Because frankly, isolation is no small part of it. I don't know if I have a perfect answer for that, but here's what I think I would say. If you're starting a farm business, factor in the isolation. Certainly, with respect, there are people and personalities for whom that is not an issue, or the isolation is a bonus. But for a lot of growers, it is an issue, or it will become one. Loneliness and isolation isn't just frustrating. It can be something that ends this business for people or ends relationships. And I feel like you need to be aware of that factor going in. To repeat, we have seen farms shut down because of the isolation. Or divorces happen. Factoring in that loneliness can mean a few different things, and certainly I'm not the king of all ideas, so hopefully the comment section can chime in. But if you do not plan to create a large business with several employees, which can help address the loneliness factor by having all those people around, then consider locating yourself either closer to farmers you know and like, or closer to people in general, preferably other people who are not going to mind you having a farm. I would recommend not isolating yourself and then creating a small-scale isolated business, which is tough because that's kind of what farming is. Then, of course, choice 3, besides a large farm with many employees or locating yourself close to other farms you like, would be to bring in partners and start a business together, not separately. Could that be a total mess? Sure. But if you pick your partners well and they're people you can trust and everyone is protected and contracts are well designed, exit strategies are put in place, you could create a cooperative or collaborative farm, but also something that is preemptively accounting for loneliness. You build in people who can give you a break, watching animals, harvesting, planting, etc., so you can go see other friends as well from time to time, which is something that farming greatly limits. I've talked about the complexities of hiring someone to do your farmer's market. Having partners with vested interest theoretically eliminates much of that complexity. Again, I don't have all the answers, but I do have some insight on what farming feels like 10 or 15 years down the line. And to me, it feels like something that should be shared in pretty much every sense of the word. When you get to this point, though, it's hard to change it. Your kids have their routines, your farm and businesses are established, that you have your banks, all of your stuff is in one place. The thought of starting a whole new farm from scratch makes you physically sick to your stomach. After 5 farms, I honestly just don't even want to think about it. And so you just get to take the little bits and pieces of time you get with your friends and then have that same conversation every year at the conference. This is nice. We should do this more. Anyway, welcome to my post-conference brain, a brain that should be celebrating all these interesting things I learned this week and will, but is left dwelling most on the same thing I learn every year, which is we've made some great friends in this business, and this business also is what keeps us from seeing them that much, or at least as much as we like. Obviously, some folks won't care or relate to that. They enjoy the solitude, and that's fine. Everyone is different, but if you're starting a farm and you enjoy people, just have that factored into the business plan. How are you going to see the people you love as often as you can? Yeah. All right. Well, apologies for all the cheeriness. Let's take a quick break and then talk slugs. BRB.
I don't know what you've been doing. All that I know is, oh, that I do miss you.
Today's episode of Growers Daily is brought to you by Peaceful Heritage Nursery. If you're looking for hardy and resilient fruit trees, berry plants, or pawpaw trees, then check out Peaceful Heritage Nursery. Peaceful Heritage Nursery LLC is a mail-order nursery shipping premium quality fruit trees and berry plants across the USA. They specialize in resilient, non-GMO plant genetics for small growers. Their diverse selection includes berries, cold hardy figs, passion fruit, gumi, mulberry, and much more. They're famous for their diverse selection of premium quality grafted pawpaw trees. 5-star Google ratings and customer testimonials attest to their commitment to excellence in quality and service. Find them at peacefulheritage.com and join their mailing list. Once again, find them at peacefulheritage.com. Use the promo code NOTILL, all caps, one word, for 10% off your first order. All right, back to the show. If you, the listener, are enjoying this content, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/notillgrowers. I will try to get to questions from everywhere that questions come in, but I will always get to your Patreon questions. Now, today's Patreon question comes from Patreon member Kirsten, who writes, quote, "Could you possibly discuss ways to deal with slugs? I live in the Pacific Northwest, which is slug heaven. I've tried everything I can think of. I'm wondering how market gardeners such as yourself deal with this issue. Thanks." End quote. Okay, so thanks, Kirsten. And if you've been listening for a while, you know that I've talked about slugs a couple times on the show. But like I said last week, there is always something that could be added to the conversation about every topic. In fact, this weekend at the Oak Conference, which is going to be a topic this week, just have to roll with that, Daniel Mays of Frith Farm was talking about slugs and ecology because he, like me, gets a lot of questions about slugs in particular from no-till gardeners. A lot of times when you're bringing in things like wood chips and mulches, slugs are like, is this all for me? But what he said, and I'm summarizing here, is that something will eventually find all those slugs. Like, that's a huge food source. For context, Frith Farm is over 3 acres in no-till vegetable production in Maine, with many employees that rely on the success of their crops. And even in that context, Daniel doesn't use sprays or treat outbreaks of pests because he says those pests are a food source that will help establish their own predators. They are part of the ecosystem. So long as you are stewarding that ecosystem and allowing for the snakes and frogs and birds and whatever else in your region that eat slugs, then you're on the right track. When you're making a big change to a landscape, like starting a garden or bringing in wood chips or mulches or whatever, expect some significant changes in the ecology at first. I think people are sometimes disappointed that the very first year of no-till is not always a smashing success, but we're asking a lot of the environment to grow great food in a short amount of time after being almost entirely remade. And the reason I harp a little more on ecology and living soil over tillage versus no tillage or things like that is because good soil needs the support of good ecology. Sometimes people ask me for specific treatments and for specific pests, and I try not to be flippant about it, but often the ecological practices we discuss are the pest management strategies. To be fair, because I know it can take some time to get there, I will link the last show I did where I talk about more of the treatments and management strategies for slugs in the show notes. But because this is fresh in my brain, I just want to discuss that, why I think it's important to not just be thinking, how do I treat this pest, but also, why is it there? What can I encourage that will eat that pest? Now, listeners of this show and watchers of the videos will know that I'm not a huge fan of the you don't have a slug problem, you have a duck deficiency idea because of how much ducks can themselves devastate a garden, but I am a fan of the spirit of it. I'm a fan of thinking about what can be done, what can we do to encourage the slug predators. So here are some quick ways to think about that. Birds will eat slugs, but they need places to land around the garden, preferably not directly over beds so they are not pooping on the food, but nearby. They are woe to land in an open field, so give them some options, tree branches, posts, whatever. If you have a way to have a small garden and pond and some good landscaping for coverage, frogs will come, maybe even turtles. Snakes is up to you and your area because I don't want to suggest you build any snake habitat and then find some venomous snakes hanging out around the house. Here we have tons of non-venomous black snakes and garter snakes and stuff like that. And the black snakes in particular are territorial, so they help keep out the venomous copperheads and rattlesnakes. Snakes like that love our tarps where they can chase rodents underneath and enjoy the heat. So that really works out for us. Hedges and shrubbery are going to attract the smaller beetles and such that may feed on the slug eggs and also provide habitat for all those larger predators. Anyway, it's easy to think of building hedges and adding perennials as frivolous work, but oftentimes it is the pest management strategy we are looking for. So anyway, again, I'll link that other episode that I talked about slugs, at least about the more acute approaches to managing slugs, but also always look into the local resources on organic pest management strategies because there may be options and ideas for the specific species of slugs that you have that I wouldn't know about. No idea if that was helpful, Kirsten, but I love the question and keep them coming, Patreon members. Again, don't worry about if a question has been asked before. There is always something new to add. Plus, we're getting more and more listeners and watchers every week, so that too. All right, up next, I walk into a room full of market gardeners and organic inspectors after I discussed dropping both of those things recently on a podcast. What could go wrong? Be right back. Today's episode of Growers Daily is brought to you by Harnwah Greenhouses. Harnwah Greenhouses has pioneered controlled environment agriculture since 1965, partnering with market gardeners and farmers across North America to deliver turnkey greenhouse solutions. Their unwavering mission is to support growers' success through innovation and expertise in design, manufacturing, and installation. Harnwah Greenhouses are engineered to withstand high wind and snow loads, providing optimal brightness, increased yields, rapid ROI, and long-lasting durability. With over 20,000 projects completed, they are more than a manufacturer. They are a trusted partner. Their structures foster sustainable, energy-efficient ecosystems that drive profitable, resilient agriculture. In 2025, Harnwah is introducing a new low-tech, high-tunnel model starting at just $2 per square foot, offering open field growers an accessible entry into controlled environment agriculture. Harnwah Greenhouses, leading the way in turnkey solutions for local growers. Learn more at harnwah.com. That's HARNOIS.com. All right, back to the show. One obvious topic of conversation this week for me at the Oak Conference, again, the conference put on by the Organic Association of Kentucky, was about us dropping our organic certification. If I'm being honest, I was a little nervous about being there this weekend and what people might say. I felt like I was fair to the topic, but you never know how people are going to react to it or feel about it, especially not in a room full of certified farmers. Also, just because I'm not comfortable having influence, and I'm definitely not, that doesn't mean I don't have it. I've had to learn to take that influence more seriously and appreciate that responsibility, but that doesn't mean I'm always good at it. So it was nice when I had a really good conversation with a certifier who was also a farmer and sought me out to tell me he genuinely appreciated my take on the certification and found a lot of truths in it. It isn't just me who is currently kind of uninspired by organic certification and who doesn't see the value in it for every market, for every farmer. So at least some of the people who run this system feel that same way. The thing is, although yes, Hannah and I have some technical and philosophical concerns with organic certification, our decision was largely practical. We just don't believe it has a lot of value for us right now. But it also has given me some leverage to say there is a version of organic certification I would be amped about and probably go out of my way to be a part of. But this inspector agreed to a large extent, the current construction and direction isn't it. It really is a system designed for larger producers and honestly for products. If a customer is at the store, they need to be able to look at two salsas and see the one is organic and one is not. And in fact, we as consumers, my wife and I, we value the label in that context. This inspector agreed with me that it is not a program particularly well designed for small scale growers, vegetable production. I didn't go into some of the nuances of this decision when I talked about it, but in that episode. But yeah, the organic program is designed around corn and soybeans, i.e., when did you plant the one crop you grow? What did you add to the soil? When did you harvest it? Where did you store it? Did you sell all of it? Can you prove those things? Which, when you're just doing one or two crops, cool. But when you're doing like 70 crops and sowing radishes and lettuce every week, it feels absurd. It's like fitting a square peg into a round hole, but like over and over and over again. Anyway, I expected anyone really, to at least gently suggest that we come back, but that didn't really happen. So I don't know how to feel about that. So I think there is at least some agreement about how we feel about organic certification kind of across the board. Or people just were intimidated and weren't going to come up and say, we think you made a mistake. Either of those things or both of those things could be true. To the fact that we dropped our farmers market last year, a few farmers were interested in that and why we were dropping it. And most of them expressed curiosity and for some amount of jealousy. But the thing is, for many people, it's the best money they will make. And that's true of us too. We do not make as much money without a farmers market. But we've found a more sustainable way to farm and live by dropping that farmers market. So it's a trade-off. To me, that form of capital of having more time with my kids and my family is just as valuable. Also, to my first segment today, one of the reasons we see farmers less is that we're not doing the farmers market. Not that we really ever had time during the season at the market to hang out with them. The market does allow for little bits of that social element. A high five here, just a quick conversation there. I maintain that if our kids are interested, I could see us one day returning to the farmers market when our children have developed the endurance for it, which would mean a return to organic certification in theory. But if that happens, we'll let the kids run the booth while we go and chat with our farmer buddies and the customers we miss. Anyway, going to wrap it up there. I'm still beat from a long weekend of fun. I don't know if you can hear that in my voice. One quick reminder that if you are in the Kentucky area or know someone who is and could use a little extra work, there is a link in the show notes for an application for the producer/editor of this show. Follow that or this little QR code wherever I put it on the screen to fill that out. Thanks. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music and the team at No-Till Growers. Also, shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music. Pick up a copy of the Living Soil Handbook or the Seed Farmer at notillgrowers.com to support our work. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/notillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, or you sign up in the month of January, you get a shout out on the show. So big shout outs today to William Wiley Madrow. That's fun. William Wiley Madrow. Amy and Robin Dunn and Spiky. That's a good name. In this story, I mean, clearly with a name like Spiky, this is the story of a gang of renegade landscapers who go out at night in the city of Knoxville, ripping up small lawns from local businesses and replacing them with like perennials and, flowering herbaceous plants and all sorts of stuff, and really kind of beautifying the city. And when we first meet this group, we think it's just kind of like a quirky outliers, but in this universe, this is just what the young people do. Just all the time. This is like their vandalism. It's lovely and expensive. Anyway, thanks for watching and or listening. We will see you tomorrow. Yeah, Tuesday. It's a great day. It's the second one. Is that why they call it Tuesday? Anyway, see you then. Bye.